tell us about yourself?
So, Sai, we are a trading and distribution company focused on battery materials and battery chemicals. We do a lot of supplies for cell producers, for battery pack producers, and even sell raw material producers and the raw materials in raw materials. So basically, the entire chain till it comes as a battery pack to the automobile manufacturer. So it will it will include pack, cell, cell materials, and something called precursors, which is the raw materials. It's basically entire supply chain, and including tech and material and machine. So all things.
So, what's your primary focus on this chemical expo?
So we are now a 40-year-old chemical company. So our newer business is battery materials, but the larger business has been around chemicals for agro, pharma, all of it. So our basic network industry is this: the basic chemical, fine chemicals, specialty chemicals, and all. इसी में से हम निकाल रहे हैं anything that goes into automobiles, especially on the batteries.
Do you expect the government introduce safeguard duties offer an incentive for specialty chemical supply chain?
That's a good question, but it misses some nuance, right? The nuance, if I focus speciality on a certain sector, because government doesn't go and say if we want to incentivize chemicals. Government goes and says that we want to incentivize anything per se the industry. At this point in time, the government has incentivized automobile and automobile battery industry. So you have many sectors. The challenge is not government incentivizing. The challenge is execution of these incentives. We are not able to compete with China, specifically on the raw materials. We've given good incentives on making the cells, but we've not given good incentives on raw materials of these cells. And that is where the gap is. And that is why Indian companies are finding it very challenging with the raw materials that is required for these cells.
So, do you expect the industry to turn cost competitive by optimizing supply chain?
In principle, yes. If we optimize the supply chain, we will become competitive. But optimizing supply chain again is a very nuanced topic. Right? What do you mean by optimizing? Do you mean lower cost production? Do you mean just-in-time deliveries? Or do you also mean that you are having supplies for next 10 years so that your companies can develop these products? That is where India is at. We don't have the key raw materials for next 10 to 15 years. We don't have the key industry setups that will produce these raw materials at that scale. So that is where we are stuck. We're not stuck in the idea of, yes, we want to optimize, but we are not able to optimize because we don't have feedstock. We don't have large industry incentives.
What on the shift of toward carbon sustainability?
A lot of companies have incorporated carbon accounting into their systems, but until and unless it becomes mandatory by the Indian government. See, everyone right now is entering into carbon mapping and trading and all of that for external needs. Like they have to sell their products to Europe, North America. They get a carbon credit there, and that is why they are entering into the entire carbon market. What is not happening is basically local government saying that we want to put tax on carbon. So once that discussions are on in the industry, once that happens, that is when you will see a lot of carbon conscious processing and production. But I also believe India is currently at a stage where we will have to compromise a little bit on carbon to make sure that we grow enough for everybody in the system to have jobs. Right? Chemical industry is the largest employer in the country, and that needs to be maintained. So we have to compromise a little, but let's see how things.
Sir, as third largest industry of the world, chemical industry. So, how you are seeing the future of chemical industry?
The future of chemical industry will depend on two things. Number one, how we intensify the processes. Basically, making sure that our processes have lesser carbon emission, lesser pollution, at the same time, higher yield. So you will see a lot of innovation on process, which is happening on all two. Yeah, right. Second thing that will happen is we will move toward greener chemistries. By greener chemistry, I just don't mean alternative, but I mean chemistries targeted for making sure that emissions are reduced by consumers. EV batteries, what we work is basically chemicals for EV batteries, technology, machine. EV battery is just a mission to make sure that emissions from vehicles reduce. So that is what will happen. That is the new phase of industry. If you just map how many patents are coming from India, most of these patents today are coming from two companies, Ola and Upfront. Both are focused on EV battery packs and EV vehicles. That is where we believe India will have its new pharma industry will be actually the EV industry. So what happened 10, 15 years ago with pharma, we see happening with EV. It's a little slow right now because of global impact. But in next 5, 10 years, we're very confident what's happening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.